They hide in plain sight, smiling when the room is watching, and silent when the truth dares to enter. You've seen it, the way their eyes shift, the way their voice grows softer when the topic edges too close to their secrets. They wear charm like armor and confidence like a crown, but underneath there is something fragile, something terrified of being seen. Today I will show you a single question, a question so simple, so unassuming that it walks past their defenses and sits quietly in the center of their mind. And then the silence will do the rest, because when truth meets fear, masks fall without a fight. The art of calm interrogation. They expect resistance. They expect you to accuse, to point a finger, to raise your voice, because that is when they know exactly how to respond, deflect, twist, confuse, and turn the spotlight back on you. But what they do not expect is calm, a calm so steady that it unsettles them more than any shout could. This is the art of calm interrogation, where the sharpest weapon is not anger, but composure. You do not meet their fire with fire, you meet it with still water. You do not storm into their defenses, you invite them to step out into the open. Think of it like this. When a storm comes, a seasoned sailor knows better than to wrestle with the waves. He waits, he studies the tide, and then he moves with precision. That is how you must approach the one who hides behind charm and half-truths. When you want to expose them, you must make them want to speak. You must design your question like a mirror, so when they look into it, they cannot help but see themselves. This is not about trapping them. It's about making the truth feel like the only option they have left. That begins with your presence. Sit with a posture that neither invites confrontation nor bows to intimidation. Let your voice be measured, each word deliberate, each pause intentional, because the pause is where they begin to feel the weight of the moment. In that pause, they will wonder what you know. They will wonder how much you have seen. And that wondering is the crack in the mask you are waiting for. The power of calm interrogation lies in the fact that it feels safe to them at first. They think they are leading the conversation until the rhythm changes. You do not chase answers, you create space for them to arrive. This is where the subtle art begins. Your eyes must hold steady, not with aggression, but with patience, as though you have all the time in the world. You lean forward not to intimidate, but to show interest. The silence between your words should be long enough for them to grow uncomfortable, but short enough to feel natural. Because silence is not empty. It is full of pressure, and those who fear exposure cannot bear it for long. They will try to fill it, and when they do, they will begin to reveal themselves. You must resist the temptation to interrupt, correct, or argue. Let them speak. Let them run in circles with their own words until they begin to contradict themselves. The moment they do, your calm will make them hear their own inconsistency more clearly than any accusation could. Remember, the aim of calm interrogation is not to break them in the moment. It is to plant a seed of doubt in their own narrative. It is to create a moment they cannot stop thinking about long after the conversation ends. The question you will later ask, the one powerful question, will be far more effective because of the stillness you have established now. Calmness disarms the defensive mind. It makes people lower their guard because they do not feel attacked. And yet, under the surface, your composure is leading them exactly where you want them to go. This is why patience is your greatest weapon here. Every second you remain steady is another second they must carry the burden of their own story. And the truth is, those who hide behind facades always fear the quiet. They fear it because quiet is honest. It does not bend for them, it does not flatter, it does not distract. Quiet is where the truth breathes. When you master calm interrogation, you become something they cannot predict. You do not take the bait when they provoke. You do not give away your thoughts when they try to read your expression. You become a mirror so still, so clear, that they start seeing the parts of themselves they wish to keep hidden. And that is when they know, deep down, they are not as invisible as they thought. Calm interrogation is not about power in the way most people think. It is not about dominance. It is about control. Not control over them, but over yourself. The steadier your mind, the sharper your perception. You will notice the small flinch when you mention a certain detail. You will catch the shift in their breathing when the conversation edges too close to their truth. You will hear the hesitation in their voice when they try to mask emotion with words. These are the moments you are waiting for, and they can only be seen when your mind is not busy reacting, but observing. So when the time comes, and you do ask that one powerful question, it will land in silence so profound that they will feel the world slow down for a second. They will hear the question echo in their own mind. They will realize it demands not just an answer, but an admission. And the beauty of calm interrogation is that you do not need to force that admission. You let them sit with it. You let the weight of the question do the work. And whether they speak or not, you will know by the look in their eyes that the mask has cracked. This is the first step, the foundation upon which the rest of your strategy will stand. Without this calm, every other move risks turning into a battle of wills. But with it, you do not fight the mask. You let it fall on its own. And when it does, you will not need to raise your voice or prove them wrong. The truth will have already spoken for itself. The moment of unmasking it happens in a fraction of a second. A flicker in the eyes, a hesitation in the voice, a breath that suddenly feels heavier than the one before. Most people miss it, not because it's invisible, but because it's brief. So brief you could almost believe it wasn't there. But when you've been watching with patience, when you've trained yourself to see what others overlook, that fraction of a second becomes the moment you've been waiting for, the moment of unmasking. Masks are not torn away in dramatic fashion. They slip. They loosen at the edges, often without the wearer even realizing it. And in that instant, their polished composure begins to crumble. But you must understand this. The moment of unmasking is not loud. It is not a confession shouted across a room. It is not a dramatic meltdown. It is quiet, dangerously quiet, because that is how truth escapes without warning. This is why, during your calm interrogation, you must be present, not just with your ears, but with your entire awareness. Watch their face when you touch on certain topics. Notice the way their pupils contract when you say something too close to the truth. Notice the way they blink faster or slower, the way their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes anymore. These are not random mannerisms, they are cracks in the mask, and the moment you see them you must not pounce. Do not let excitement betray you. If you react too soon, the mask will tighten again, stronger than before. Instead, you let the crack widen on its own. The moment of unmasking is like watching ice begin to fracture on a frozen lake. One small sound, one small shift, and you know beneath the surface something is giving way. And here is the paradox. The less you react, the more they reveal. The mind behind the mask thrives on control, control of perception, control of narrative. But when they sense they are being observed without interference, their own discomfort begins to work against them. They start adjusting their story mid-sentence. They start adding unnecessary details. They try to prove their version of reality with too much eagerness, and in doing so, they reveal exactly what they are trying to hide. This is the moment when your silence becomes heavier than any words you could speak. You are not interrogating anymore. You are simply there, holding the space, letting their own actions betray them. But here's the beauty of it. When the mask slips, it is not just you who sees it. They feel it too. There is a shift in the air, almost imperceptible, as if time itself pauses to watch. You will see it in the way they suddenly avoid your gaze, or the way they laugh a little too quickly, hoping to reset the rhythm. They will feel exposed though they may not admit it, and once they feel it, they can never return to the same level of control they had before. This is why the moment of unmasking is so powerful, because it doesn't just reveal the truth to you, it makes them aware that the truth is visible. And from that awareness comes pressure. They will start to wonder how much you know. They will replay your words in their mind later that night, searching for hidden meanings. They will begin to feel the weight of their own performance, and the strain will grow. But you must remember, this is not the time to deliver the decisive question. This is the time to study. Let the moment pass without force. Let them believe for a while that maybe you didn't notice. The more secure they feel after slipping, the more likely they are to slip again, and each time the mask will return slower, weaker. Think of it like a crack in a dam. The first fracture is small, but with time, water will find its way through, wearing down the structure until the break is inevitable. You are not attacking the dam. You are simply watching the water work. This requires patience, and patience requires discipline, because the human instinct, when you see a mask begin to fall, is to strike while the vulnerability is exposed. But this is not a battle of fists. It is a game of time. The moment of unmasking is not your victory. It is your signal. It tells you the ground beneath them is no longer steady, and that signal means one thing. The question you have prepared will soon carry more weight than they can handle. Yet there is one more truth you must understand about this moment. Sometimes the mask does not slip because of something you say, but because of something you don't say. A silence after a statement. A pause where they expected a reaction. A steady gaze when they expected you to look away. Humans are creatures of pattern. When you break the pattern, the mind stumbles. That stumble is often the first step toward truth. And in those few seconds, when their rhythm breaks and their mind scrambles to recover, the face they didn't want you to see comes into view. You will see flashes of honesty without polish, emotion without control. And if you are watching closely, those flashes are enough to understand more than any explanation they could offer. The moment of unmasking is like watching the shadow of a bird pass quickly across the ground. You might miss it if you're not looking, but if you are, you know exactly what just flew overhead. It is not about catching every detail. It is about recognizing the signal when it appears. And when you do, you will realize something remarkable. They were never as impenetrable as they wanted you to believe. The mask was never flawless. It was only convincing because you had not yet learned where to look. Now you know, and with that knowledge, you are no longer playing the same game they are. You have stepped out of their script and into your own. The moment of unmasking is not the end. It is the turning point. It is the moment the story stops being theirs alone and becomes one you both share, though only you are aware of it. And in that quiet shift of power, you prepare for the next step, not to expose them in rage, not to drag their truth into the light by force, but to let them carry the weight of their own slipping mask until the day they can no longer hold it. That day will come, and when it does, you will not need to lift a finger. You will simply ask the question and watch the rest unfold. The power of silence after the question. When the question leaves your lips, the air changes. You can feel it. It is no longer a casual conversation. It is a crossroad. And yet, the true force of the moment is not in the question itself. It is in the silence that follows. That silence is not a void. It is a weight, pressing against the walls of their composure, searching for cracks. Most people rush to fill that silence, afraid it will feel awkward or uncomfortable. But that is the mistake. The power lies in letting the silence live, letting it breathe, letting it grow heavy enough that it becomes something they cannot ignore. Silence is not your weakness. It is your ally. It does the work your words cannot. A question, followed by stillness, invites the truth to reveal itself, not because you demand it, but because the human mind struggles to sit in that kind of tension without resolution. We are creatures who seek balance, and when there is a question hanging in the air, unanswered, the weight of that imbalance becomes unbearable. Those who have nothing to hide answer quickly, naturally, without hesitation. But those who carry secrets, they stall, they search, they craft, They edit before speaking, and in that pause, they reveal more than the words they eventually choose. That is why you must remain absolutely still after you ask. Your expression must be calm, your body unhurried, your eyes steady. Do not lean forward in anticipation. Do not frown as if demanding the answer. Let them feel that they are the only one breaking the stillness, and that the choice to speak or not speak belongs entirely to them. This creates a subtle shift in power. In their mind, they are no longer reacting to your question. They are reacting to their own discomfort. And discomfort is a far sharper interrogator than you could ever be. You will notice, in this silence, tiny signals they cannot control. The way they swallow more than once. The way their gaze drifts, searching for a safe place to rest. The way their breathing changes, as though the air has grown thicker. This is where patience becomes everything. Hold the pause longer than feels natural, longer than your instincts tell you to. Let the silence become something tangible, something they feel on their skin. You are not being passive. You are applying pressure in the most subtle way possible. Because here is the truth. Words can be dodged, twisted, redefined, but silence leaves nowhere to hide. It forces a person to sit with themselves, and for some, that is the most unbearable confrontation of all. If you break the silence too soon, you rescue them from that confrontation. But if you hold it, they must either face the question or reveal, by their avoidance, that the truth is not something they are ready to offer. And here is where the power deepens. Silence is not only for them, it is for you. It gives you space to observe without distraction. While they wrestle internally, you have the chance to see their mask shift. To measure the exact moment, hesitation hardens into a crafted response. You will know the instant their answer becomes performance instead of honesty. And once you have seen that, you cannot unsee it. Silence also has another, more subtle weapon. It invites over-explanation. When someone feels pressure to fill the void, they often speak more than they intended, adding unnecessary details in an attempt to convince. They talk themselves into corners. They contradict something they said moments earlier. They reveal the outline of the truth without even meaning to. And you, steady, patient, unshaken, collect every piece without lifting a finger. The beauty of this is that it works without aggression. You have not accused. You have not cornered. You have only given them the space in which their own mind becomes the interrogator. They may even feel they are in control of the conversation. After all, you are silent, and they are the ones speaking. But in reality, your stillness is the quiet architecture of control. You decide when the silence ends. You decide how long they must live in the question before relief comes. This is why the power of silence is so misunderstood. People believe silence is empty, when in truth it is full. Full of weight, full of tension, full of the unspoken understanding that something important has just been asked. And the longer it remains unfilled, the heavier it becomes. The key is to use it with precision. Too little, and it loses its edge. Too much, and it risks turning into a stand-off. But when you strike the balance, silence becomes an invisible force, doing the work your voice never could. In that moment, you are not chasing truth. You are inviting it to emerge on its own, knowing that if it does, it will carry more authenticity than any forced confession. And if it does not emerge, the absence itself becomes its own kind of answer. You will see it in their eyes, the quiet calculation, the searching for the safest path forward. You will hear it in the tone of their eventual reply, the way it feels slightly too polished, slightly too rehearsed. And you will know the silence has already done its work. The question has already landed. You do not need to press further. You have the information you came for, even if it is not handed to you directly. In truth, silence is not the absence of dialogue. It is the deepest form of dialogue. It speaks without words. It asks without demanding. It reveals without forcing. And when you learn to wield it, you discover that exposure is not always about loud declarations. Sometimes it is about letting a single question hang in the air, letting it echo in the space between two people until one of them cannot bear it any longer. And when they finally break that silence, whatever comes out, truth, excuse, or evasion, will tell you exactly what you need to know. That is the power of silence after the question. It is not just a pause. It is the unseen hand that pulls the mask further from the face, without you ever having to touch it. The question they cannot comfortably answer, it is not the loud question that exposes them. It is the quiet one. Not the one loaded with accusation, but the one laced with precision. You see, anyone can ask, "Why did you do that?" or "What's your problem?" But those questions invite defense, not truth. The question they cannot comfortably answer is different. It doesn't attack, it disarms. It walks in softly, without threat, and sits right in the center of their story. It is crafted with such care that, for a split second, they forget to shield themselves, and in that moment the truth trembles on their lips. This question is not designed to force an admission. It is designed to create a fracture between the story they tell and the reality they live. It is a question that seems simple to an outsider, yet to them it feels like a spotlight has just been turned on in a darkened room. The reason it works is not magic, it's understanding. You've studied them. You've watched the rhythm of their answers, the stories they lean on, the safe phrases they repeat when cornered. And in that knowledge you have found the one place in their armor that has no reinforcement. That is where the question must land. And when it does, you do not push, you do not rush. You let it sink in. You give it room to echo in their mind, knowing that every second of silence after it is making it heavier. The beauty of this question is that it has no easy escape. If they answer honestly, they risk exposing more than they intended. If they lie, the crack in their voice, the stumble in their delivery will betray them. If they dodge it entirely, the absence of an answer will hang between you like a living thing, reminding both of you that something was avoided. The discomfort you see in them now is not anger, it is instability. The moment they realize that you have found the one question that forces them out of their script, their entire performance begins to falter. You will notice it. Their tone will shift, softer or sharper than before. They may suddenly become overly polite or overly defensive. They may try to laugh it off, to cloak the tension in humor. But all of it points to the same truth. You have stepped into a place they did not want you to see. And this is where restraint becomes your greatest skill, because the temptation to corner them, to press for more, will be strong. But that is not the art. You are not trying to drag the truth out of them in one motion. You are planting a seed that will grow heavier in their mind the longer it remains unresolved. This is why your question must be delivered without venom. If it feels like an attack, their defenses will rise instantly. But if it feels like genuine curiosity, like an invitation to explain, they will lower their guard just enough for the discomfort to creep in unnoticed. The true skill lies in making the question sound almost casual, something that could be asked in any conversation, while knowing it has the precision to strike at the heart of the truth. For example, instead of "Why are you lying?" you might ask, "How did you feel when that happened?" Instead of "What are you hiding from me?" you might ask, "What made you decide to do it that way?" These are not confrontations. They are mirrors. And when someone looks into a mirror they were not prepared for, they do not always like what they see. This is the discomfort you are searching for, not because you enjoy it, but because it reveals what is real. The question they cannot comfortably answer is not a hammer, it is a key that opens a door they keep locked, even from themselves. And once that door is cracked, even a little, the truth begins to leak out, not all at once, but in fragments, a word here, a hesitation there, a story that changes slightly each time they tell it. You will see the shift, and you will know that the question has done its work. They may try to cover it, to rebuild the wall, but the crack remains. And once a crack exists, it is only a matter of time before it spreads. What makes this question so powerful is that it does not just live in the moment, it follows them. They will think about it later, perhaps in the quiet of the night, replaying the conversation. They will ask themselves why you asked it, how much you know, what you've seen. And that is when the pressure builds, not because you are still there pressing, but because the question has taken root in their mind. This is the brilliance of subtle exposure. You do not fight to take their mask off. You make them want to remove it themselves. The question that cannot be comfortably answered is like a thread hanging from a tightly woven cloth. Once you pull at it, gently without force, the fabric begins to loosen on its own. And the more they try to tuck it away, the more aware they become of its presence. Here is the part most people miss. The goal is not always to get an answer right there in the moment. The goal is to create a shift, internal, silent, but irreversible. Even if they never give you the truth out loud, you will see it in their behavior. They will begin to avoid certain topics. They will try to control conversations more tightly. They will grow uneasy in your presence, not because you have threatened them, but because they know you have the ability to see through them. And that knowledge alone is enough to weaken their grip on the image they project. So when you prepare this question, prepare it with care. Do not choose something you can ask anyone. Choose something you can only ask them, something born from your own observations. This is why patience matters, because without observing, you cannot know where their story is weakest. And without knowing that, you cannot craft the question that slips past their guard. But once you have it, deliver it softly. Let it feel like a moment of genuine interest, and then let the silence after it stretch, let it breathe, let it settle on their shoulders. Watch the way they shift, the way their eyes move, the way they search for an answer that will not cost them too much. And in that search, you will see the truth, not always in their words, but in the struggle to find them. That is the moment you know the mask is no longer whole. That is the moment you realize you no longer have to tear it away. It will fall in time by their own hand, the aftermath observing the cracks the question has been asked. The silence has done its work. The mask, whether they realize it or not, has shifted. Now comes the final act, not the clash, not the confrontation, but the quiet observation that follows. This is the aftermath, and it is where the real truth unfolds. You see, exposure is rarely a single explosion of revelation. It is erosion. The question you asked was the first wave against the shore, but the aftermath is the tide that follows over and over until the landscape changes completely. From this point forward, you do not need to force anything. You watch, you listen, you notice the changes they believe are invisible. Maybe their voice, once steady and rehearsed, now wavers when they speak on certain topics. Maybe they laugh too quickly, too loudly, hoping to drown out a question that lingers in their mind. Maybe their stories start to shift, small changes, subtle inconsistencies they hope you won't notice. But you do. Every one of these cracks is a signal, and together they tell you everything. In the aftermath, your job is not to accuse. It is to collect, to let them reveal themselves in fragments without realizing they are doing it. And this is where restraint becomes more powerful than force. Because if you push too hard now, they will rebuild the wall. They will retreat into the safety of their practiced image. But if you remain calm, steady, and quietly attentive, they will underestimate you. They will think you have let the question go, that the moment has passed, and in that false comfort they will slip again. The aftermath is a dance between patience and awareness. You must know when to lean in and when to pull back. You must know when to let silence do the talking, and when to ask something that seems casual but is, in truth, a follow-up to the crack you've already seen. Over time, you will begin to see a pattern. Their reactions will betray the parts of their story they guard most closely. They will avoid certain subjects entirely, redirecting conversations as though they never heard your words. And yet, avoidance itself is an answer. You will notice the small tells, the way their gaze falters when you step too close to the truth, the way their shoulders tense when you mention certain names or events. These are not random movements. They are the body's way of protecting what the mind cannot fully conceal. This is why the aftermath is so important, because it is in this stage that the truth becomes visible not in what they say, but in how they live after the question has been asked. People imagine exposure as a single dramatic moment, but the reality is far more subtle. It is a series of moments, each one building on the last, each one loosening the mask until it no longer fits. And here is the remarkable thing. Often they will begin to reveal the truth voluntarily, not because you have demanded it, but because holding it has become too heavy. This is the quiet victory of observation. You have not shouted, you have not accused, you have not cornered. You have simply been there, steady as a stone, letting their own actions write the ending. And when the ending comes, it will not be loud. It will be in the way they lower their voice when they speak to you, as though they no longer wish to be heard. It will be in the way they choose their words with more caution, as though every sentence might reveal too much. It will be in the moments they avoid your eyes entirely, knowing that you have already seen too much in them. The aftermath also gives you something even more valuable than their answer. It gives you confirmation. Because once the cracks appear, once you have seen the shifts, you can trust what you feel. You no longer have to wonder if your instincts were wrong. The evidence is in the way they move, the way they react, the way they try, unsuccessfully, to keep the mask in place. And in that knowledge you find your own calm. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You have the truth, whether or not it is spoken aloud. This is where the power truly lies, not in making them confess, but in knowing the reality without their permission. The aftermath is not about them. It is about you, about training your mind to see beyond the surface, to value patience over provocation, to trust the quiet process over the dramatic moment. And in mastering that, you will find that you can expose anyone without ever raising your voice or breaking your composure. You will understand that the cracks, once visible, cannot be unseen. And the person behind them will know, in ways they may never say, that you have seen what they worked so hard to hide. That knowledge will change the dynamic forever. From now on, they will tread more carefully around you, not out of fear, but out of the unshakable awareness that you cannot be deceived as easily as before. And you will walk away with something they will never take back from you, the quiet certainty of truth. That is the end of the process, not a victory shouted from rooftops, but a truth carried in silence, not a public unmasking, but a private understanding. And in that understanding, you hold a kind of strength that no denial can weaken. This is the aftermath. It is not the explosion. It is the echo, and sometimes the echo is louder than the blast.